This month, we've been talking about having an awareness of the one infinite source for which all goodness and prosperity flow. And that, of course, includes money. Today, we'll talk about the source and the flow and how it sometimes looks through the human experience, both on a personal level as individuals and also how it moves through us out into the world, kind of like the ripple effect on steroids. And my question to you is, do we dare to describe money as God in action? So like all of life, money is part of all creative energy. And it moves from source into the law of circulation. And what happens with it is ultimately up to what we consciously intend for it as it flows through us. So let's start with source. We've read that the kingdom of God is at hand. And we're reminded by Science of Mind that all of this infinite good from source is ours for the taking. However, we also learn that we can only experience what we draw through the channel of our own minds. And we've talked about some of those beliefs and thoughts throughout the month. I've heard some good stuff from our speakers this month. So for a quick review, what I thought would be fun is if we just kind of write in the chat some of our thoughts and our feelings that come to mind when we talk about money. You know, some of our preconceptions, some of our fears, some of those thoughts that sometimes we're not even conscious of about money. You know, things like money is the root of all evil. There's not enough for everyone. If you have it, someone else doesn't. Some of those negative, untrue beliefs that we have lurking in the dark of our mind. I remember a line from a movie, I think it's probably Network. I don't need friends. I'm rich. I have money. Anyway, the Home Office sent through a quote, and it reads this: when we live in fear about money, we constrict it. When we live in a healthy love of money, the flow is easy and natural. So as a student of our philosophy, it's been revealed and continues to be revealed to me that money is only one example, in fact, one small example of the eternal and infinite flow of abundance available to me. But somehow in our humanness and in our experience, given our wonderful power of choice, we have come to believe that it is separate from abundance, that it exists as its own entity with its own power and has its own rules separate from the laws of nature. And everything in nature falls under the rules of nature. That includes limitless goodness. So where did we get these beliefs? Many of which, as I said, are just plain not true. Our upbringing, our education, our religion, our imagination, our fears, and maybe our actual past experiences. In reality, this doesn't just happen with thoughts about money. It happens with any old belief we have. We have inherited it, been taught it, or had a bad experience with it. And so we believe what we believe, and we declare it as the truth, consciously or not, but we subconsciously expect it. We attract it, good or bad, and we ultimately manifest it in our surroundings. When we believe something is true, or maybe that something isn't true, without even realizing it, we can start to have so much faith that something is going to happen or not, that it becomes our own personal truth, like a self-fulfilling prophecy. What happens is that we're so focused on it that all we see is that. It's all we see because it's what we're looking for. So we subconsciously rule out other possibilities and only leave space to receive and validate what we already believe, consciously or not. That's why Science of Mind is so incredibly freeing and enlightening. It reminds me that we say this a lot: what we think about, we bring about. And that allowing a new thought to flow through our mind actually clears away all those untrue old beliefs and makes room for more possibilities, many of which we didn't know about yet. We don't know what we don't know. And if we only focus on what we do know, then that's all we know. For me, I know that that my incredible fear of change in my lifetime and my fear of the unknown caused me to dig my heels in and lock into what I knew or thought I knew as being the truth. And I wasn't even available to recognize when something better came along. Okay, so many years ago, I was very, very stuck in fear, and it wasn't just about money. It was about many things that I was afraid of. I like to describe it as I became so fearful of losing what I already had or not getting what I wanted that I fought anything new. I resisted change, and I saw any opportunity to change my pattern of thinking as putting me at risk. I virtually eliminated new possibility from being available to me. My options were beyond limited. They became non-existent. I was literally hoarding and holding on to anything I thought was good for fear of losing it. And the flow of abundance got cut off, in fact, totally blocked. I was going to control everything. So I built a dam in my mind and I closed off the flow. Now, if it were water we're talking about, it would have gotten very stagnant and maybe even toxic. What I didn't know then was that the more I allowed goodness to flow through me, the more abundance I experienced and the more I had to give away. There's this great quote from Romeo and Juliet when Juliet talks about love resembling the sea. And it goes like this: my bounty is as boundless as the sea, my love as deep. The more I give to thee, the more I have, for both are infinite. And really, how often have we used the sea as a metaphor for divine spirit at the center, for source, and for the flow of abundance and natural goodness? So as I began to consider the possibility of infinite source in my life, and I saw it and I witnessed it in other people's lives, I started to learn how to be open enough to receive newness, a new thought, a different perspective, an expanded idea that in turn sparked a new and different experience. And that's when my life really began to change, to grow, to rise, to flow. I began to assimilate this idea of newness into my mind. I started to welcome and invite possibility, recognize options, and understand potential as it flowed through me. I became comfortable releasing it in discovering a sense about flow, that I was part of a flow. First the possibility, then the thought, triggering a new experience. And once repeated, I developed a growing faith in a knowingness that I would be filled anew, to let go and to let God, and allowing the flow through me out to the world around me. And to my amazement, actually made more space for more good to come into my life. And this is true, not just for money, but for everything. It's all God in action. I was missing the faith. The question is, what am I going to do with it, with this newfound knowledge? So today I know that flow is the means, that it's always there, that I don't have to control it or manage it, and that it's always available to me, and that I'm a channel, and that flow circulates through me, and it creates this this very awesome, healthy balance, because I've developed a consciousness of trust, which I now proudly realize is my faith. My choice is in goodness, not in fear. Fear being the illusion. So let's take a minute now just to go back to the chat box and start putting in there some of our affirmative statements about money, and put those in the chat. How is it a tool for me? How does it inspire me? How can I use it to show love and support? Think about replacing that shadow of an old belief with a nice, I will never run out of money. Exactly. It comes from the same eternal flow as love. There is always more than enough. Exactly. Really good stuff. And you know what? Affirmations are incredible. You repeat them, the universe is abundant. You repeat them and you repeat them, and you eventually change that self-talk, because you consciously direct your thoughts. As I give, I receive. Wonderful. Money is the color of trees. I love it. You know, we have such guidance offered to us in Science of Mind. I hear it often: treat and move your feet. Change your thinking, change your mind. You know, and what you think about, you bring about. I repeat that many times a day. What I'd like to do is share a reading from page 293 in our Science of Mind book. It's my favorite, and I read it and I share it. I proclaim it, and I want to share it with you right now. I know I am now at the threshold of all good, wisdom, and truth. All the good I can embody is now mine. I have only to open the portals of my soul and accept that which is ready to express through me. I expect fully and emphatically the answer to my prayer today. Right now, do I possess the thing I so greatly desire? I remove my fear of lack and negation, for it is the only barrier which stands in the way of my experience of good. I alone can remove it, and I do remove it now. In this moment, my good comes to me, enough and to spare, to give and to share. I'm going to repeat that. In this moment, my good comes to me, enough and to spare, to give and to share. I can never be exhausted. My good can never be depleted because the source from which my good comes is inexhaustible. Today, in this moment, the law responds to my thought. My word is one of affirmation, rising from the knowledge that the good, the enduring, and the truth are eternalities of my experience. I cannot be apart from that which is my good. My good is assured me by God, the indwelling essence of my life. It's just beautiful. Page 293. When I was a kid many years ago, many years ago, my mom told me that all I had to do was put 10% of my income in savings every week. Now, if I had done that, and I made an average of $500 a week during the last 40 years, I'd have an extra $100,000 sitting in some account somewhere that I totally forgot about. She was talking about compound interest. I remember reading someone who said, if you put a penny a day into an account with compound interest, it turns into this massive amount of money. She didn't really know anything about compound interest, but she clearly didn't let her experience of poverty growing up with 10 brothers and sisters sleeping 3 in a bed limit her idea of the flow of abundance and of prosperity in her thinking. And I was inspired by that. The point is that we have a choice. That we have a choice. While we stay stuck worrying about what either hasn't happened yet or probably never will, we can choose to take a small step forward in faith. While we are preoccupied thinking about some negative untruth, some fear-filled belief that we can't have, or many times don't deserve money or prosperity, we're denying ourselves the power of God's grace and abundance. We essentially take ourselves out of the natural flow of goodness because we're fearful and obsessing about lack and limitation, about not getting what we want or losing what we already have, as though there's not enough to go around, which is never in the eyes, the mind, or the Spirit of God. There is no lack or limitation. It's not even a possibility in the creative law of the universe. You can change that thinking in this very moment and replace it with the truth that we live in a spiritual universe and our source and our substance flows through us as natural goodness, that we are whole, perfect, and complete as the flow of unlimited power, intelligence, truth, and beauty fuels us, fills us, and frees us with every breath we take. I invite you to take a piece of my pie. It's made of infinite possibility. So my last little story is about a Science of Mind class on finance with Reverend Jackie LaBar. I think it was the Coach to Everywhere, the one that Moni taught, and that it could have been spiritual economics. But either way, here's the story. During the class, we all agreed that we would pool our unexpected income as a group and donate it to the center at the end of this 8 weeks of class. Well, first of all, I barely had enough money to take the class, but the center allowed me to pay weekly, which I magically found a way to do. Anyway, as we started the journey, I was feeling kind of embarrassed because some weeks my 10% amounted to less than $1. But a funny thing happened along the way, week after week. I realized that I had made the same commitment as everyone else, and though our individual lives and circumstances are all very different, the important point was that we all agreed up front that we would, and that we could do the 10%. And, the first thing I did is looked at the $3 a day I was spending on coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, which I can make at home for a lot cheaper. And I did that, and I started a new ritual at home, you know, maybe like a prayer of gratitude for the abundance I already have in my life, like my job, a car, a roof over my head. And I started paying attention to this unexpected income, which really is the same as unrealized abundance in my life. And it was amazing the kinds of things that the people in the class had happen during that 8-week period, even for me. Together, we experienced bonuses, birthday gifts, found money walking down the street, credits and refunds that had been pending for months that we totally forgot about. I happened to get recognition at work and was given a $25 gift certificate. Instead of me saying, well, what can I get for $25? I looked at it as, oh my goodness, I can't wait to put $250 into the pot. It was like a treasure hunt to find where the next airdrop of manna from heaven would appear. Well, this group, I think there was 10 of us, donated nearly $1,000 to the center. And though my share was small, it was a community joint effort. It was an equal commitment that we all offered. And I had such pride and gratitude that we made such a generous donation. And what I know, because I have an inside line, is that that money was used as scholarship to help someone go through that very class. It's really, really an amazing thing. What goes around comes around. So I'm going to end with Ernest Holmes in mind and what he shared with the world and what his legacy continues to share. That our reality, with a small r, is whatever we believe in our little old mind and heart. But what we know the truth to be, with a capital T, directly from the pie maker, is that we will continue to bring about that which we think about. And that includes lack and limitation if we allow it, if that's our choice. Until we consciously choose to embody natural goodness and abundance. Today, I choose to be a vessel of the true reality of our existence. And that's with a big capital R, knowing that we shine brightest in our spirit of oneness as part of the flow of creation. That it is the truth of all life. It is my life now. And it is your life.